Alright, so as far as leveling up the TIM goes, I was interested in the PhET simulation that Caleb did for one of his tech dives. So I went on PhET. My lesson plan was an introduction to functions. It was a 3-day lesson plan. The first was just, the first day was designed to get students thinking about functions like in their daily lives. And so my initial plan for that lesson was to have sort of like a guided conversation about places we see, we put something in and we get something out, right? So for an example of that, I had like a vending machine, perhaps also a printer. These are examples of something where we have inputs and outputs, and there's some relationship between the two. So I decided to see if I could use tech to enhance that part of the lesson. So on PhET, I found this simulation here. It's called a function builder. And I thought that this was, let's see, it's loading. I thought that this is a great tool, specifically because of the scaffolding involved. So as you can see here on the screen, we have 4 different sections here. We can start with patterns, then we can move to numbers, equations, and then a mystery, right? So it's sort of an inquiry-based. I think that's a great extension activity for maybe the GT kids or fast workers, etc. So if we click on patterns here, right, we're putting these little shapes in, and then over here on the right, we're getting these shapes out. So, students can play around with this. I think that these little symbols down here took me a minute to think about, but all we have is like a reflection, a translation, and then honestly, I didn't play with this camera one. Probably a transformation of some kind. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so it's making it like black and white, right? Which is not something that we can actually do in math. There's really no equivalent to doing black and white, but I think that that's cool. It connects it to real life things that are not necessarily directly related to math. So this is the first stage. We have these patterns, and then students can move to numbers, right? They can do +2 on their little function machine here, and then maybe they want to do, let's not do that, -1. So if they put 1 in here, you should get 2, right? If you put 2 in, you're going to get 3, because 2 + 2 - 1 is 3. And then finally, they can move to equations. So again, we have these sort of like little stages here: addition, multiplication. Well, that's boring. What about that? And they can keep playing with this, right? I think that the one that Caleb showed, I think, was a little confusing if it was meant to be used as an introductory activity, but because of the scaffolding built into this specific PhET simulation, I think that it works well as an introduction activity to functions, and it uses tech to help students be engaged in the material, where previously, like if we were having a group discussion about functions, we're going to have like 4 students who want to talk about them, right? This here, it's like at least students have something they can like focus their eyes on even for a minute or 2, right? It's getting all students engaged, even if it's not for that long of a time, which is better than, it's a better level of engagement than previously. And then finally, I think the mystery is really cool. Okay. So, you can feed these in. Looks like maybe it's multiplying. Oh, interesting. Okay, so it's adding by 3. And then if you reshuffle it, it's going to do something different. And then it also has 2 steps, 3 steps, right? So I think this is also a simulation you can keep returning to because, again, of these levels that are built into it. So this is the area I chose to level up my active lesson plan on. Let's go pull up the 10 here and show how. All right, so initially I would say that my lesson plan had an entry level for active learning. Again, you would maybe have a couple students participate in a conversation about, hey, where do we see functions? But I think that's pretty passive. few students are going to reach the level of engagement that I would like as an instructor. And then I think that by using this PhET simulation for that introductory activity, we're moving into the adaptation level. And that's because students can work independently on this tool. They are sort of shoehorned into using one tool, but within that tool, there's multiple ways for them to choose. They can choose to start with patterns, they can choose to start with equations, they can start with a mystery. So there's that element of student choice. And then, of course, this is definitely an inquiry-based learning activity. So the exploration is the key component here, which is what makes it an adaptation level. So I think that this one change moves that portion of the lesson up 2 blocks on the 10.